So I know that everybody here has worked with the results to different, to different degree, but I'm going to start very quickly for Cal-ISBOA with the basics. So the very most basic is how do you access this? I'm just going through some of the questions I get. So this is Cal-ISBOA's website. You're signed in. You go to access member benefits, which is the password protected area. And then you go to survey 2019. And at the top of that, right under the toolbar, if you have access to the surveys, you have links. You can, you have to click on the link and it will take you to the appropriate survey. So we're gonna go general survey dashboard. And this is, you should all be familiar with this if you've completed the survey. And if you can everybody just mute themselves right now, and then if you have a question, unmute yourself because there's a lot of background noise. Anyway, so if you've completed the survey, you're familiar with this screen. It welcomes you and your school, and you can view your data, what you entered here, and you can always view this. You're in this survey year, and you're going to notice that Cal-ISBOA has 2 additional survey years. There is some historical information that we were able to upload. PASBOA, I believe, has 4 years. We will eventually have 4 years uploaded. We'll get to some of that later. But here, this is the current year. So you can look at your data and you can change it anytime. So if you've had a material change in the expense section, or if you look at it and you realize that you made a mistake, you can change it at any time. You can also go into the historical data and you can change or add any data at any time. So I do suggest that you take a look at your data, because I know how crunched everybody is when they're entering it, and you may pick up a mistake that we did not pick up when we looked at it, the data result. Next, so what we're really going to talk about now is accessing the results. So this is the All Reports tab. If you click on this All Reports, you will see that you have access to the results guide, which is a printed version, which will give you some tips on navigating the results. And you're going to see that you have all these filters, and we'll talk about how to apply them. And then you have down here areas to download PowerPoint charts and download into Excel. These for the general survey, it is disaggregated data, the kind of data that you're used to getting in Excel format. So I'm moving pretty quickly through this part because there was already a tutorial posted on the Cal-ISBOA website, but we can also go back. So if you just click on this, let's hope it, double click on this, let's hope it loads. Without applying any filters, you're going to get the entire data set by section, and it will tell you there's no filters applied, so it will tell you whatever filters, if you have any, it will tell you that on this cover page. Then it takes you to the summary results, and again, if the school completed it, you will be able to see it has their profile information. Cal-ISBOA has about 200 schools in this. And then it takes you through by tab, by section, all the information that you're used to getting. So you can see a school-specific response in this section. Of course, no disaggregated admissions data is provided. So all of these sections. So that's just with no filters, you get everybody. Now we're getting to the filter section. I'm just going to remind people that if they can mute themselves for now, that would be really helpful. And again, here it's the year. You're gonna look at the year. Make sure that it's the current year, or if you wanted to download a previous year, you can do that too. Just double check where you are. So now we have the filters. In order to work with the filters, you need to click edit. And then you can see that some of this will be a little bit different from ISBOA, but the navigation is the same. So for us, if you want to look at just Northern California schools, and with these filters, you can apply as many at once as you want, as long as you get a large enough data set. It has to return at least 5 schools. So just by filtering that, we have 127 Northern California schools. You can sort by religious affiliation, special needs, enrollment, and the grade levels, as well as average tuition and peer cluster, which we'll get to. But just a little note about the grade levels, because that is a little confounding. So with it, when you're going, let's say you're a K-8 school and you want to look at schools that have grades K-8. You need to go through and check off the grades that you want to include. Now, some schools would consider in middle school, would consider 6th grade to be middle school. So you need to check it off in both places. So this will return all schools that have those grades, which means that it will also return K-12 schools. So there are 71 schools in Northern California now that meet this criteria. And if you then download the Excel spreadsheet, you're gonna get only those schools. So you can, whatever filters that you apply will apply to the download. So this is telling you what filters are applying. Now, if you really only want to look at K-8 schools, you're gonna have to go through the profile information, and there's a couple things you can do. If you just wanna look at the Excel, just delete the schools that aren't the schools that you wanna look at. Or you can look at this and determine that you'd like to create a new peer group. So it's a workaround, because there is not the ability, there's no ability to exclude schools that have those grades, but maybe have other grades as well. So I'm gonna stop just for a second and ask if there are any questions about that. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I don't have any questions about that, but I'm wondering if you know which schools you want in a peer group, can you pick by the school name?
I'm just about to get to that.
All right, thanks.
I'm just gonna go to that. So
Got it.
anyway, so in order to build your peer cluster, you need to clear out this filter. And then you go to the peer cluster. You've got to hit edit again. And you go down to this peer cluster function. And I've created a couple groups, but I want to create a new group. So click on new, and we're going to name it, and I'll just name it test group. And you're going to see an alphabetical list of schools. Not all of you, this is California, all of California's school members. Not all schools have completed the survey. So you can click them, but if they haven't completed it, you won't get results. But you just click on the school and save it. Whoops, sorry, I didn't realize that. Okay, I'm adding that. And then this is a really interesting peer group because they have nothing in common with each other. But so once you've selected the schools, you save it and it will show up in your group. And now there are 8 accounts. And now if I run my general results reports, it will show only your peer group. And you can just create a number and they stay there and you can apply them at any time. So I'm actually gonna select this group and I'm going to show you that these summary and ratio results PowerPoint are, and again, it's telling me what my peer cluster is, and then it creates the charts for just that group. And this test account does not have this information in here, but this is going to show you the 25th, the 50th, and the 75th for that group, and it will show your school as well. And Cal-ISBOA, you may have different ratios that you look at, but the mechanics are the same. And so that whole deck is done for, and you can export this and use it for your presentation. So that's one thing, in addition to the Excel spreadsheets. And then the other thing, you'll note that there's another PowerPoint section that are trends. And if you're doing the trends, again, this will return for whatever filters you've selected. In this case, it's the K-8 peer cluster. And this is going to show you the historical trends across the data. Now, we were not able to upload every data point because of the change in format, but I will say that the sections we were able to upload that may be of interest to you are faculty salaries and tuition and fees, and there are some other ones. So as you look through this, it will show you trends by year. And again, we'll have 4 years in there as soon as we have the time to go through them. So are there any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
So these graphs, once you run them, there's no way to change the format or to drill in to the peer school listing.
No, but you have access to the data underlying them, Nicole, so you can go into the Excel spreadsheet and look at the individual responses. So if you really wanted to show it by individual schools, you have to go into the Excel spreadsheet and create another PowerPoint using that data.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I mean, I personally think there's some benefit unless you absolutely, I mean, I think it's really good for you to have access to the I think that there's something to be said for not showing individual data to a broader group and focusing on the group. But I know that sometimes people will want that and they may ask a question about a specific school. You do have access to it. So but that is one of the differences from the way it was before. Any other questions about this all reports? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go over to this other tab, which is results by question. So the filter is the same. The filtering, the ability to filter is exactly the same, but in this, what you get in here is you can see the results by every question. So I'm going to go into details by grade, because I know that that's something that a lot of people are looking for. So if you go into details by grade, again, you have the ability to filter. It's still, my K to 8 is still showing because I haven't cleared it. Up here, and this is very important, you're looking at the selected year. So we're just looking at what the results are for this year, and we'll come back to that here later. And then you can see that within this results by grade, you can select the grade that you look at. So I'm going to select grade 4. And you can see where your school is by response. And then there is also a graph. So that shows where the median is, the number of students enrolled, and then it shows all the responses. So that's the tuition. And then it shows all the various fees, and then it will show the total fees and tuition by every question for every grade. Now, a lot of people have been looking for the average percent change in tuition. I know that was a question on the survey in previous years. And we don't have that by the overall average for the school, but you can easily see what the change in tuition was by grade. So rather than selected year, what you want to look at is year over year. And you go down, and now it's going to show you the percent change for each of these questions. So again, tuition, it will show you the percentile change for each grade. Any questions? Oh, I'm going to also show one more thing. And you can see these icons up here. You can put this into a PowerPoint. And again, just to follow up on what Nicole had asked before, these are fixed. So you can't change this, but you can just have this one slide. And the cover sheet will tell you what your, how many responses there were and what your filters are. And of course, you can go in at any time and clear your filter and change your filter, and or start a new peer cluster and save the peer cluster and have it for future reference. So the other area I know that people are always very interested in looking at faculty salaries. And this is details by years of experience. And again, it shows it. You just have to go in and say, okay, this is the response for 1 to 5 years of experience. This is the percent change. I looked at this one time and said, well, that doesn't look right, because I was really looking at what the median was. So you just have to make sure you're selected in the right format. So this is for this year, and this shows where this test score is in relation to the 25th, the median, and the 75th. And it shows you in chart format. And then you can pull it down for any of these. And again, if you want to look at a specific school, you can go back in to the detail information that's provided on the Excel reports that you can run all reports. And then if you want to look at other salary details, you can just click over and you will have access to the information by question. Okay, so those are the basic mechanics, and then what I suggest is you just play with it by tab and by what areas you want to look at. So does anybody have any questions about the general survey before I go over to the salary survey? Okay, I'll do the salary survey now. Oops. All right. Okay, so I know this, so this is the welcome screen. You can just easily close that there. And now this is the dashboard, a lot less cluttered than with the general survey, but it's set up the same. And again, I'm going to encourage you to go in and look at your data and make sure that it looks right to you. We did take a look at it before we opened up the results. We got rid of obvious outliers, obvious things that didn't make sense, but you may look at your data and say, I don't know what I was thinking when I entered that. That doesn't look right to me. Fix it. So, and you have the same ability, results all reports. You can filter, but without the filter, you're going to get your report in Excel. And again, it's going to show you just the basic profile of everybody that responded, the total number of responses, how they break down. That's the profile page. And then you will see 25th median and 75th number of responses. And this is for everybody that responded. And then it has the administration positions. Again, for everybody that responded. So that's the basic report. And from there, you can filter it. So if you really don't want to look at anybody in Northern California, you can set your filters. And as long as you return, there will be, consistent with all years, if there are not at least 5 responses, you won't see any information on a position. So if you want to do Northern California with an average tuition, and that's the other thing with these tuitions, you can be very exact at what you want to look at. So let's say you only want to look at schools that have tuitions between 26 and 39. You can set that range. You can also set a pretty exact range of enrollment. So you only want to look at schools that are between 250 and 610. So you've set that and you have 38 schools that meet that criteria. Your salary report is only going to show schools that meet that criteria. And you can go in and you can change that as much as you want. Any questions about that? And again, it's going to tell you what your filter is so that you don't forget. And then you're going to see all the responses. So you really have the ability a better ability to control your filters now, and you can apply multiple filters at once. I think it's going to make it a little bit easier. And then I know that a lot of Cal-ISBOA schools have already turned in their requests for custom peer groups. And the way that works is there is a request form on the website, and you have to, it's the same restrictions as previous years. You can request 2 custom groups. There have to be at least 5 schools different. And Andrea will go in, and you will, once you've completed one, and I have it for the demo account, so you won't see it in filters, but you will have the ability to apply a peer group filter then, and they will be there. You run your own report. There's not a deadline by which you need to submit the form. So if in May, your head of school asks you to look at a different peer group for a particular project, we'll be able to set you up. So that's the way that's going to work now. And in fact, if you don't change your peer groups for a year, they're just always going to be there. You won't have to go through that stuff now. So are there any questions about this? Is anybody having any problems that I haven't touched on?
Hi, Martha, it's John. The one thing that was convenient about, I mean, I love all this stuff. The one thing that was convenient about the old spreadsheet is that when you created your peer cluster, you could really quickly get specific information. Like if I wanted to know what the annual fund total was for my peer cluster of schools, I've selected that question number and it was all in one place, and I could put it into the things I was putting together. Is there a way to do that in the new system?
Well, well, the only way that I can say that you could do that is you can apply your peer cluster and then run the, I'm going to go back to the general, hang on. And then run, hang on. And then download the Excel spreadsheet. So for each of your peer clusters, you could have a separate Excel export, and you can then easily see what each one does.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think that I figured that was the answer, but I've done that already. I just,
yeah. So what it doesn't do is show the individual schools in chart format. It shows the aggregate in chart format, but it doesn't show the individual schools in chart format. But it does show the individual schools in the peer clusters, download of the into Excel.
okay.
So it would be, if you think it's important to do the chart of the individual schools for something, you would have to do that from Excel.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Anything else? Well, anybody else find anything, discover anything that I haven't mentioned? Okay, well then, I guess if there are no other questions, we're gonna call it. And this will be posted on the Cal-ISBOA website, and I will also share it with PACE-BOA, and you'll be able to, I'm sure, do that on the PACE-BOA website. So in the meantime, I will just encourage everybody to play with it, because there are a lot of things that you can do with this that we couldn't do before, and there are a few limitations, but there are ways to work around them. And I'm more than happy to work with you if you need help. So just let me know, but spend some time with it. And I know that it takes a little getting used to, but once you do, I think you're gonna find that it's really quite flexible. So thank you.